ABC News. This is World News Tonight, Sunday. Now from our Washington headquarters, here's Sam Donaldson.
Good evening. Another crisis meeting at the White House, the second of the day, is continuing at this hour as President Reagan wrestles with the problems thrown up for him and for the United States by today's bombings in Beirut. At least 146 U.S. Marines and more than 80 French troops were killed when their separate barracks were blown up this morning in two separate attacks. Many others, at least 59 U.S. Marines, were injured. The grim search and rescue operation continues tonight in the rubble. Let's get the story of what happened in Beirut at about 6:20 a.m. Beirut time, 12:20 a.m. in Washington, from Al Dale.
Hours after the explosion at Marine headquarters, rescue workers were still pulling bodies out of the concrete rubble, what remained of a four-story building. It was a heartbreaking task as the death toll continued to climb through the long hours. Almost 200 Marines normally slept in the building, but a lucky few were away at the time of the blast. It happened while most were asleep, it being Sunday morning when sleeping in is allowed. But this Sunday morning, suddenly a red truck came speeding through a Marine checkpoint, accelerating as it crashed through two barriers and went around a third before plowing into the lobby of the building. The truck, carrying an estimated 2,000 pounds of TNT, blew up with the driver inside. Colonel Tim Garrity, the Marine commander here, said the terrorist attack would not keep his men from doing their job.
That these kind of things just harden our resolve, and that we will continue to do what we came here to do, and that is to provide assistance for a free and independent Lebanon.
Bodies of the dead, along with the severely wounded, were taken to helicopters waiting at a nearby section of the airport. Slowly and carefully, they moved them so they could be flown to U.S. Navy ships lying just offshore. Some of the injured were brought back after treatment on the ships to be flown to medical facilities in West Germany. As the digging and searching went on, the Marines came under sniper fire, causing them to go on alert and take cover. The second suicide terrorist attack occurred at a French military headquarters about a mile away, only 2 minutes after the Marine explosion. This time, security was all but non-existent. A bomb-laden truck reportedly pulled into the underground garage and exploded. The 9-story apartment block collapsed on scores of French paratroopers asleep inside. Rescuers pulled at least one survivor from beneath heavy concrete slabs. His screams had led them to him and told of his immense pain. Until this, the French had lost 17 men since coming here more than a year ago. No one knew this morning that the initial figure of 25 dead would grow by day's end. And still, they searched. Al Dale, ABC News, Beirut.
President Reagan was awakened with the news from Beirut at 2:27 a.m., about 2 hours after the bombing occurred. He cut short his weekend retreat at the Augusta National Golf Club in Georgia and returned to Washington to convene 2 long crisis meetings at the White House, one this morning and one this afternoon. The subjects: what happened, who did it, how to respond, and what changes should be made in security arrangements for the Marines and in U.S. policy in Lebanon. Ann Compton has the latest from the White House.
Sam, President Reagan is choosing which actions he will take to provide greater security for the American Marines who are still in Lebanon. In the White House Situation Room, he has been deciding on those safety measures for well over 2 hours, determined to limit the vulnerability which cost the Americans so dearly. The staggering loss of life shocked President Reagan. His only public comment came in a driving rain when he arrived back at the White House.
There are no words to properly express our outrage, and I think the outrage of all Americans, at the despicable act that we must be more determined than ever that they cannot take over that vital and strategic area of the earth, or for that matter, any other part of the earth.
In the White House Situation Room, President Reagan made it clear that withdrawing or reducing American forces is no option. And on This Week with David Brinkley, Secretary of Defense Weinberger said the mission of the Marines is still to keep the peace while Syria and Israel withdraw from Lebanon.
The force is sized exactly to that mission, and it still is proper for the fulfillment of that mission. That mission is obviously made more difficult when you have a number of additional warring factions growing up and arming themselves and shooting at each other and at everyone else they can find.
Former Secretary of State Kissinger, who shaped Middle East policy for nearly a decade, said the Marines are not being effective. He suggested it's time for Israel to become active with the U.S.
I don't think Syria will withdraw unless the balance of power within Lebanon changes. And I must point out It is an amazing phenomenon that the Israeli army is sitting 20 kilometers from where Americans are being killed, and that there seems to be no coordination between our policies at all.
The White House is pointing the finger of blame at terrorists who are linked to Iran's Khomeini regime. The U.S. says it has both circumstantial evidence and intelligence information to that effect. Sam?
And one decision was made quickly here in Washington to replace the dead and injured Marines and bring the 24th Amphibious Marine Unit back up to strength. At Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, fresh troops packed their equipment and prepared to fly off this evening for the Mideast. Base spokesman would not say exactly how many Marines will be on their way, but said their morale was at a fever pitch high. The spokesman said, "We were stunned by this terrible act of violence, but we're ready to go." At the Pentagon, John McWethy is standing by, having collected a good deal of information today. John, first of all, who did it? Who do we think bombed our Marines in Beirut?
Defense Secretary Weinberger all day long has been pointing a finger at Iran, and there are at least two bits of circumstantial evidence that help fortify his arguments. The first is the way that Iranian terrorists attacked the American embassy about 6 months ago is very similar to the way they've done it to the Marine headquarters this time. The second one is, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, almost all of the sniping at American Marines around the Beirut airport has been due to Iranian snipers during this so-called ceasefire period.
John, how could that pickup truck get past all the barriers, crash through all the barriers, and get right into the lobby of that building?
Well, first of all, the airport is open to the public, Sam. That airport is functioning as a regular municipal or civil airport. Therefore, it's not too easy, not too hard to get into that area. But secondly, the Marines are trying not to barricade themselves, not to put themselves behind high walls and make a Fortress America in that area. They're trying to be visible as part of a multinational peacekeeping force, to be seen.
Now, in trying to arrange something new for security, Secretary Weinberger suggested today that perhaps some of the Marines would be withdrawn to ships off the coast, at least overnight, when they're not on duty. Is that a live option?
I think it is a live option. What they're toying with now is moving at least the headquarters part of the operation, 200 to 300 troops onto ships. That would give the terrorists fewer targets to go after, Sam.
Do you have information about how many Marines are being sent from Camp Lejeune to replace those who were killed and wounded?
It now appears it'll be about 200 to 300 Marines moving in that direction. In addition, I might point out that there is a Marine Amphibious Task Force which is in the Atlantic Ocean now, along with an aircraft carrier that had been diverted to the crisis in Grenada. They'd been heading down towards the Caribbean. They have now been again redirected to the Middle East. Those Marines were supposed to relieve the Marines that are in Beirut now. One other thing, Sam, and that is on notification of next of kin. Probably not until tomorrow morning will any of the names of the dead and wounded begin to become public. That is because when a crisis like this happens and American soldiers are killed, it is the policy of the U.S. government to officially send people out to those next of kin and tell them face to face that one of their loved ones has been killed.
Thank you very much, John McWethy at the Pentagon. The reaction to the bombings in this country and most of the world has been one of horror, outrage, and frustration at not being able to immediately get at the perpetrators of the act. But such understandable reaction aside, the bombing may have produced one more casualty: domestic U.S. support for the president's policy. And we'll have a report on that in a moment.
World News Tonight, Sunday. Brought to you by Brim, decaffeinated coffee.
There he is, the great horned owl.
There he goes. Oh, you want some coffee?
Love some.
Just half a cup. Caffeine, you know.
But this is New Brim decaffeinated coffee.
New Brim?
Introducing a new rich roasted taste that really satisfies. New rich roasted Brim.
It tastes this rich. Fill it to the rim.
Discover the rich roasted taste of New Brim.
Senator, what's that cereal you're enjoying?
With all these delicious apple slices and cinnamon, it's fruit and, could you repeat the question?
Post Fruit and Fiber cereal. It tastes so good, you forget the fiber.
The name? Fruit and... I forget. But that's off the record.
Fruit and Fiber tastes so good, you forget the fiber.
Fruit and,
maybe Mommy knows.
Fruit and Fiber, also with dates, raisins, and walnuts. It tastes so good, you forget the fiber.
One additional casualty of today's Beirut bombing could be public and congressional support for President Reagan's Lebanese policy. That, of course, may well have been the aim of the bombers. Britt Hume reports that while members of Congress are outraged by the bombing, it has caused them to express more and more discomfort with the president's policy.
Just 3 weeks ago, with the crucial support of House Speaker O'Neill, Congress passed a War Powers Compromise. It allowed the president to keep the Marines in Beirut for 18 months, quieted his critics, and gave his Lebanon policy a veneer of bipartisan support. But today's event seemed to have shattered that.
I think the Marines ought to be pulled out right away. I think it's perfectly clear that the mission that they have been assigned, they are unable to carry out.
It's a totally inadequate kind of assignment to put 1,200 Marines hunkered down at an end of a runway and told to sit still and be killed.
No, I do not think this administration has ever defined the mission in a logical way, at least the military mission.
We have known what the mission was. It was to be a presence. It was a symbolic presence. But I think with the events of the last 12 hours, that mission has evaporated.
We need to clearly define the mission of what they're there for.
Some who backed the compromise to keep the Marines in Lebanon still did today.
I still believe that with the length of time that was determined, up to 18 months, is just as valid now as when we had enacted it.
That it cannot be used as a means of having us blown out of the Middle East. The Middle East and the peace in the Middle East is too important.
But Tip O'Neill himself sounded like a man with growing doubts.
Whether the Marines were there for simply a symbol as a peacekeeping force with the other 4 nations, that is something that we have to talk about.
And ABC News has learned that Senate Majority Leader Baker, who played a critical role in passing the War Powers Compromise, immediately urged the president in a private letter afterward to get the Marines out, citing what he called an obvious and perhaps growing danger that American troops may become involved in extensive hostilities. Baker urged that every avenue be explored to achieve removal of American troops from Lebanon at the earliest possible time. Baker had no comment today, and many others here who want the Marines out will be reluctant to say so in the immediate aftermath of today's bombing. But there was never as much support for the Reagan-Lebanon policy as the passage of the War Powers Compromise suggested, and there will be even less now. Britt Hume, ABC News, on Capitol Hill.
That pressure to re-examine the mission and the consequent advisability of keeping troops in Lebanon is being felt today in France, as well as in this country. More than 80 French paratroopers are presumed to have died in the bombing of their barracks this morning in Beirut. Greg Dobbs has the latest from Paris.
Nobody here has said anything like what President Reagan said today, that this attack only strengthens our resolve. However, the French Prime Minister, Pierre Mauroy, did say that French troops will not leave Lebanon. The question, he said, doesn't even come up. However, in comments earlier in the day from the French Foreign Minister, Claude Chesson, the question came up quite clearly. For while proclaiming that France is not accustomed to giving up under pressure, he did admit that it's fair to ask, are French military forces still necessary in Lebanon? From the day the first French troops arrived, they in fact suffered the highest death toll among the international peacekeepers. And yet, the French government has suffered no significant opposition and even very little public questioning about sending them. And at least in these first hours after the bombings, there's been nothing from the public or from the political opposition to change that. Greg Dobbs, ABC News, Paris.
2 more notes on world reaction to the bombings. Pope John Paul II called them a new act of war, perpetrated on young men while they were carrying out a mission of peace. And in Moscow, the Communist Party newspaper Pravda said it appears the Vietnam story begins to repeat itself. In a moment, reports on caring for the injured and the agonizing weight of the Marine families.
One computer company has been shaping the way business does business for 99 years, NCR. Today, NCR High Technology puts computer power where business needs it most. From the powerful NCR personal computer, Decision Mate 5, to the awesome power of the 9300, the world's first full 32-bit VLSI mainframe for business. NCR, shaping the way business does business.
Hello. I like this Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver so much, I bought the company. It shaves as close as a blade, or I'll give you your money back. The first microscreen is so thin it shaves incredibly close. The second even closer. And Remington's American-made. It costs less. Norelco's imported. It costs much more. The Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver shaves as close as a blade, or your money back.
And the Lady Remington rechargeable, the perfect gift. Shaves without a cord.
In the West, where Levi Strauss & Company began, how your clothes feel has always been just as important as how they look. That's why Levi's Action Slacks have an easy care fabric that gives, plus a waistband that moves with you. It's a feeling of comfort that's capturing more men every day. Levi's Action Slacks. A real comfort from Levi's Menswear.
Hey, what's with the sourpuss?
My dentures. I hate the taste after soaking. That tablet taste.
Sourpuss? Meet Denture Gel.
Introducing new Denture Gel, the first gel toothpaste just for dentures. Powerful stain-removing cleaners plus mouthwash ingredients leave dentures clean with a minty freshness you can taste.
My dentures do taste minty fresh. New Denture Gel sure beats tablet taste.
And that sourpuss.
The U.S. command in Lebanon lost no time in evacuating the seriously injured Marines out of the area after initial treatment and away to some of the best U.S. medical facilities in Europe. 12 U.S. servicemen were flown to Naples, to the Navy hospital there. 4 on stretchers, 8 walking with assistance. Many more of the injured were flown to the military hospitals around Frankfurt, Germany. And Hal Walker picks up the story from there.
24 of the most seriously wounded Marines were evacuated to Rhein-Main Air Base aboard this Air Force C-9 flying hospital nicknamed the Nightingale. 23 made it. 1 died en route. His name is being withheld pending notice to next of kin. On the ground in Germany, medevac helicopters and several ambulances stood by to receive the stretcher cases and speed them to nearby military medical facilities. The personnel on the ground worked with dispatch, easing the victims down the ramp of the hospital plane and moving them quickly for the next leg of their evacuation. The plane had been diverted to Lebanon from another mission in Turkey and was on the ground in Beirut within a few hours of the bomb blast. The injured were treated on board by a flying medical team, but no major procedures were performed in the air. 13 went to this Air Force hospital in Wiesbaden, which treated released American hostages flown here from Tehran nearly 2 years ago.
At this point in time, we have several of the 13 with very severe injuries. 11 are expected to require surgery.
While the evacuation plane is being bedded down, the first of the Marine survivors are by now receiving the full medical treatment they require. Not yet home, but at least away from the terrorism of Lebanon. Hal Walker, ABC News, at Rhein-Main Air Base.
Notification of the kin, the next of the kin of the dead Marines in Beirut has now begun. But throughout the day, families of the men of the 24th Amphibious Marine Unit, the unit whose Marines are stationed in Beirut, waited in agony here in the United States for some news. Joe Spencer reports on the ordeal of some of those Marine families.
It's been a day of uncertainty for Selena Foster as she waits to hear if her son John is alive.
Every time that phone rang, I try to grab it. I know if I grab it, and they say, you know, I don't think I can last long. And I know if prayer don't bring him back, nothing else will.
Lance Corporal John Foster was hoping to come home next month after a 6-month tour of duty in Beirut. He recently told a hometown reporter what was foremost on his mind.
What goes through a guy's head?
A lot of things, really. You know, I mean, hey, you think about dying, really.
In Detroit, the family of Corporal John Nash is also waiting for word.
Every time the phone rings, I'm ready to melt, you know, worried. But like I said, I'd rather have him hurt than dead. I'd rather take care of him the rest of my days and lose my son.
In Milwaukee, though, Christine Golembiowski has already been told her husband is alive.
There were different times that he was in the building, and it could very easily have been there this morning. The fact that it was Sunday morning may have helped him, but didn't help a lot of people who were still, you know, in their barracks.
In the interview John Foster gave last month, he expressed fear about exactly what happened at the Marines Airport headquarters today.
And you got to worry about whether they're going to hit the building or, you know, some of your friends are going to get killed.
He may be dead. I don't know. Ain't nobody said nothing, not yet anyway. Or he may be wounded, you know, real serious ill, you know. Nobody said nothing. You know, I'm just, you know, just sitting here waiting.
Joe Spencer, ABC News, Robbins, Illinois.
More news about the Marine bombing in Beirut if it becomes available during this broadcast. But in one other news note, former Florida Governor Ruben Askew won a crucial Democratic presidential straw vote in his home state today. but it turned out to be a victory for frontrunner Walter Mondale as well. As Florida's favorite son, Askew was expected to win all along. He got 45% of the vote. But Mondale ran an unexpectedly close second with 35%. John Glenn had 17% and was a distant third. When we return, Dick Schaap will have today's sports news.
It's the All-American Cheese Jamboree.
Come on! America loves cheeseburgers, make my cheddar please. Or how about an omelet with real Monterey Jack cheese?
The All-American Cheese Jamboree is going on at your grocer's right now.
Hey, come on! Swiss, Colby, and American. Sandwich sure to please. America loves pizza with real mozzarella cheese.
America, you love that real cheese taste. So come on to your grocer's for the All-American Cheese Jamboree.
Every day, when people go out to get more business, they may, in fact, be losing business. That's why AT&T, with the most powerful communication network in the world, created the concept of telemarketing. From a telemarketing center, executives make sales, process orders, and service customers unrestricted by distance. AT&T, expanding your ability to communicate.
It's a great day. Well, he's not the father of the bride. I am. He's my Aetna agent. I met him when my Susie was her size, and my business wasn't much bigger. From day one, he's worried as much about my business as I have. Do I have enough insurance? Or too much insurance? Do I have the right insurance? And thanks to him, I'm free to worry about other things. Like how I'm going to pay for all this.
Call your Aetna agent.
Aetna, I'm glad I met you.
Fran, I'll be with Dr. Sims.
Wait a minute.
What's wrong?
You need the breath deodorant.
You're kidding. I did have onion soup.
Here, Clorette's will take care of it.
Clorette's?
Clorette's is the breath deodorant. It'll freshen your breath fast.
Only Clorette's has Actazole with chlorophyll and helps your mouth's own freshening power eliminate bad breath.
The breath deodorant does cost a bit more, but it's worth it.
Thanks.
Anytime.
For fresh breath fast Clorette's, the breath deodorant.
The odds were infinite that for the first time in 8 years, neither Bill Rogers nor Alberto Salazar would win the New York City Marathon, mostly because neither Salazar, who won the last 3 years, nor Rogers, who won the previous 4, were entered. So when the cannon boomed, no one was a clear favorite among the more than 17,000 men and women heading across the Verrazano Bridge from Staten Island to Brooklyn. During the first half of the race, a Tanzanian, Gidemus Shahanga, set a very fast pace, trailed by England's Jeff Smith. But a couple of miles later, on the bridge from Queens to Manhattan, Smith was in front, and far behind the two leaders, almost half a mile, was Rod Dixon of New Zealand, already bothered by cramps in his right thigh. Shahanga faded, and with less than 2 miles to go, Smith, even though he too was bothered by cramps, seemed to have a comfortable lead over Dixon. Less than a mile from the finish, Smith still seemed to be in command. But then Dixon, once an Olympic miler, running only his second marathon, found new strength. And Smith, running his first marathon, couldn't meet the challenge. Dixon spurted away, and at the finish line had the 10th fastest marathon ever run and a 9-second lead over the exhausted Smith. Dixon seemed full of energy. He had proved himself a legitimate marathon runner, but he still had a miler's mind.
I think with a mile to go, I just said, my God, a miler's kick does the trick.
Among the women, Greta Waitz of Norway did the trick, winning easily her 5th victory in the New York Marathon in 6 years. The National Football League season reached the halfway point today, and in the National Conference Central Division, the Minnesota Vikings strengthened their grip on first place. The Vikings, now 6-2, built up a 17-3 lead over Green Bay, scoring first on Steve Dill's touchdown pass to Sammy White. Green Bay rallied, and with only 2 seconds to play, Lynn Dickey connected with Mike Meade to tie the score. Then, 5 minutes into sudden death overtime, Minnesota's Benny Ricardo kicked a 32-yard field goal to win the game. The NFL's tightest race is in the American Conference East. Buffalo and Miami now tied for first place. New England and Baltimore tied for second, only 1 game behind. And all alone in last place, the preseason favorites, the New York Jets, who blew a 21-point lead against Atlanta today. The best matchup of the day, unbeaten Dallas against the twice-beaten Los Angeles Raiders, coming up on ABC starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. America's team against America's Renegades.
wasn't laughing at you. I was...
Don't say it. Why do you put up with me?
Let's go back and have some coffee. This could take some time.
Times like these are made for taster's choice.
The best tasting coffee is the freshest tasting coffee. And every cup of Taster's Choice is fresh because it's freeze-dried fresh. Taster's Choice. Fresh taste for your choice coffee times.
It's the one that took the stick out of gum and puts the fresh in your breath. Yeah, Freedom's the one that took the stick out of gum and puts the fresh in your breath. Yeah, Freedom's the one.
Freedent gum not only won't stick to your dental work, it helps clean in between to freshen your breath while you chew.
Freedom's the one that took the stick out of gum and puts the fresh in your breath. Freedom's the one.
Freshen your breath with non-stick Freedent.
The new casualty figures for the Marine bombing in Beirut issued just a few minutes ago by the Pentagon are these: 146 Marines and sailors known dead. Another 69 Marines and sailors injured, many of them evacuated already, either to Naples or to Germany. President Reagan is still chairing a meeting of his National Security Council, the second of the day, attempting to determine how to beef up security for Marines in Beirut and the implications of this bombing for the long-range policy that the president has held in Lebanon. At Camp Lejeune, 200 to 300 Marines are scheduled to leave tonight for the Mideast to fill up the ranks left vacant by their dead and wounded comrades. The camp commander, Major General Al Gray, talked about the tragedy and the Marines' duty.
There's anger, there's concern. We don't like it when our comrades in arms suffer casualties. There's a little bit of frustration. Morale has remained exceptionally high. It's sort of a natural kind of a thing for a Marine, or for that matter for a soldier or an airman or a Coast Guardsman as well. It's a natural kind of a thing to want to be with your fellow Marines or your shipmates during times of crises.
General Gray from Camp Lejeune. President Reagan has just signed a proclamation asking that the United States flags be flown at half staff until Monday, October 31st, in mourning for the dead Marines and sailors in Beirut. Well, that's our report for tonight. Peter Jennings will have the latest on today's tragedy in Beirut in a special report during halftime of tonight's Los Angeles Raiders-Dallas Cowboys football game. And Tom Gerald will have a complete wrap-up of the day's events on a special expanded edition of the Weekend Report later tonight. I'm Sam Donaldson. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
From Washington, this has been World News Tonight Sunday. World News Tonight Sunday is a presentation of ABC News.
Sunday, Hardcastle and McCormick are the main event.
Watch this jab. See that? See how quick it was? You didn't even see it.
As they take on the mob.
What are you trying to do? Kill me?
Hardcastle and McCormick. Then the game of the season, the Raiders and the Cowboys. An NFL special, all starting at 8/7 Central.
Tonight on ABC.
When I play basketball, I know my shoes. But now I'm into tennis, and Foot Locker has all the top-name sports shoes. All sizes, too. When I asked my Foot Locker salesman, I found out he knows tennis shoes like I know basketball shoes, because he's a pro, too.
They feel good, right?
Oh, they're great. I'll take them.
Foot Locker sales pros. Experts even the experts look up to.
Go get them, Will.
Thank you, Ted.
Foot Locker.
Experts even the experts look up to.
Foot Locker.
If there's anybody out there who's never tried pan pizza at Pizza Hut, boy, are you missing something. If you missed pan pizza at Pizza Hut,
Look at the cheese.
you're missing all that cheese.
Don't believe it.
Lots of tasty toppings of please. Your first won't be the last with that. So give it a try at your hometown Pizza Hut.
Barbara Eden, The Stranger Within, 11:45 tonight.